So let's talk about React. We'll present it today, and we'll do coding tomorrow, right? Right. So if you've noticed, using jQuery, even as cool as jQuery is, allowing you to directly manipulate the DOM and accessing single pieces of the HTML document and clone and add and remove and and manipulate anything you want and go fetch data and dynamically update the page. It's still way too low level, right? It's too way down to manipulating single elements, right? We need some higher level of abstraction to be able to deal with much more complex components and more behaviors, right? And ever since at the turn of the century, and a lot of applications started moving over from desktop applications, started to be re-implemented on web pages, right? There's been a lot more demand on being able to implement things in JavaScript, right? And the language all by itself and the tooling way back when just wasn't there to be able to tackle very complex projects, right? Most of web development had occurred mostly on the server side, right? Where a lot of really cool things were created in many different frameworks such as .NET and Java that created all these tools and IDEs and design patterns that had been around for decades already, that had evolved and matured over time. Creating inversion of control, model view controller, a lot of singletons, and creating all these design patterns that were very widely used on the server side. Yes, and all that maturity had occurred because the applications that were being built were enterprise-wide. I mean, they were very complex applications. We didn't have any of that on the JavaScript side, for being able to do similar things on the client. Mostly the clients were just dumb clients that just received static HTML or CSS from the server, already pre-computed, pre-calculated by the server. Yes, but more and more, we were making more demands on the JavaScript side, and so new tools had started to come out, new libraries, new frameworks started to come out to be able to tackle these new complexities on the browser side, browser programming. A lot of like Dojo. There's a lot of Backbone JS. All these libraries that have succeeded. They were trying to tackle this issue of complexity that which we had frameworks on the server side, but not on the client side, right? One of the libraries that was most successful at some point was Angular. Google was able to create and bring many of the same tools that we took for granted on the server side. Now were available also on the client side, right? We would have now component technology. We would have injection, inversion of control, dealing with state management, caching. Multi-threading, a lot of things that we took for granted on server-side programming now started to appear on the client side, right? Things such as also implementing services, implementing model view controller, a separation of concerns of dealing with client side, dealing with the rendering, dealing with the control handling events, representing models. All these things are needed for heavyweight programming of very complex systems, right? Breaking it up into teams and folks being able to work together. Yes, Angular was very successful. They made a miscalculation when they were going from version 1 to version 2. Version 2 became incompatible with version 1. A lot of folks in industry who had invested a lot of effort at implementing the first version, using the first version of Angular, kind of like found themselves that if they wanted to go to Angular 2, they kind of have to throw away all their investment in Angular 1 over years, and they saw that as a problem, right? it's relearning, it's recoding, retesting, everything, re-maintenance. Facebook, more or less at that time, they were also with their own library, which was gaining advantage, gaining followership. Kind of took advantage of this hiatus of the industry, kind of finding itself not knowing what to do, of going between Angular 1 and Angular 2, and that was a nice a breach or a nice gap that Facebook was able to take advantage of and promote their alternative solution. Okay, there were some critiques of using Angular, since Angular kind of is a whole framework. It takes over your entire page. It forces you to think in a particular way, and developers sometimes feel too restricted, being told exactly how things should happen. They like to have some flexibility, and Angular and React gave them that possibility. React is strictly a library for dealing with the rendering of the screen. All right, it doesn't force you to choose on how you're going to talk to a database or to a server. It doesn't choose how you're going to represent the model on the client. It doesn't force you to do a lot of things, right? It leaves it up to you, right? If you prefer to use other libraries to talk to a server, if you have other libraries to represent the model, if you have other libraries to represent the state of the application, go ahead, right? Right? And developers really took to this, and it became the sensation that it is today. It's one of the more popular libraries out there, and has a really big following, and that's what we're going to be focusing on for the next 2 or 3 oh no, only 2 weeks, sorry. Normally it takes us several weeks to go through this, but in this rapid pace it'll be just a week and a half or so. Anyway, so we're going to spend some time with React the next couple of days. Any questions? All right.